The winds of the north had always carried whispers of great upheaval, of cataclysmic events that shook the very foundations of existence. But it was on the eve of Ragnarok, the end of all things, that these whispers grew louder, turning into a roar that echoed through every hall of Asgard. The skies grew dark, clouds heavy with the scent of storm and blood. The Norns, those ancient weavers of fate, had spoken. The end was nigh. The Midgard serpent had awakened, and with it, the final battle of the gods was approaching. Thor, the god of thunder, stood at the edge of Asgard's great hall, staring into the distance where the great serpent, Jörmungandr, writhed in the depths of the oceans, its massive form coiling around Midgard itself. The prophecy was clear. Thor and Jörmungandr were destined to face one another in a battle that would decide the fate of all worlds. But the prophecy was more than that. It spoke of a sacrifice of death, of the fall of the gods. Odin, the All-Father, had long known of this day. His one eye, ever watchful, had seen the signs of doom. He had seen the serpent's rise and the fall of Asgard, but now he was silent. In his wisdom, he knew that Thor's fate was sealed. The clash between the two mighty beings, the thunder god and the world serpent, could not be avoided. The Norns had woven it into the fabric of time. Thor clenched his fist around the handle of Mjölnir, the enchanted hammer passed down to him by his father, Odin. The weight of the weapon felt heavier now, as if it carried the weight of all creation. Thor had always fought for the protection of Midgard, the humans who inhabited it, and the gods who ruled the heavens. But this battle was unlike any he had faced before. He was not just fighting for victory. He was fighting for survival, for the survival of all realms. As Thor prepared for the journey ahead, Odin summoned him to his chamber. The All-Father, despite his years, stood tall, his one eye glowing with ancient knowledge. "Thor," Odin said, his voice low but resolute, "the serpent stirs. The time has come." Thor bowed his head, his grip tightening on Mjölnir. "I know, Father. I have seen the vision. Jörmungandr and I are fated to face each other." Odin's gaze softened for a moment. "It is a battle that cannot be won without cost. The serpent's poison will seep into you. The winds of death will follow you into the fight. But you must not fear it. Victory is not measured in survival, but in the courage to face what is inevitable." Thor nodded, the weight of his father's words settling heavily on him. He knew that his destiny was set, but that did not make it any easier to accept. As he left Odin's hall, Thor called upon the power of Mjölnir, summoning the thunder to guide him. The skies above Asgard crackled with lightning as he set off for Midgard, where the Midgard serpent awaited him, coiled and ready for destruction. The journey to Midgard was not one Thor undertook lightly. As he traveled across the Bifrost, the shimmering bridge between realms, the weight of his responsibility bore down on him. With each step, the thunder god felt the magnitude of the battle that awaited. The skies above Asgard, once clear and bright, had darkened to a stormy black, heavy with the promise of something terrible. The winds howled with a fierce intensity, as if nature itself were protesting against what was to come. Thor's thoughts swirled as he looked out across the vastness of the universe. He had fought many battles in his time, against giants, trolls, and other forces of chaos, but this was different. This was the culmination of centuries of prophecy, the moment when the serpent would rise and the thunder god would fall. There was no escaping it. His fate was tied to the Midgard serpents, like two opposing forces destined to clash in a cataclysmic confrontation. As Thor reached the shores of Midgard, the ocean roared in the distance, a deep, thunderous sound that sent chills down his spine. The very earth seemed to quake under his feet. The Midgard serpent, Jörmungandr, was no mere creature. It was a force of nature, a living embodiment of chaos itself. It had grown so large over the centuries that its body stretched across the entire circumference of Midgard, coiling around the world like a massive, slumbering god. Thor disembarked from the Bifrost, his boots sinking into the damp earth as he walked towards the shore. The air was thick with the smell of salt water and decay. The clouds above churned, swirling in a vortex as the serpent's presence grew stronger, more tangible. Thor's grip on Mjölnir tightened, his heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and dread. He could feel the electricity crackling in the air, a sign that the battle was about to begin. As Thor reached the edge of the ocean, the first sign of the serpent appeared. From the depths of the water, Jörmungandr's massive head rose, its eyes glowing with an eerie, ancient fire. The serpent's gaze locked onto Thor, and for a moment, the two adversaries stood in silence, their fates written in the stars above. The serpent's hiss sounded like the tearing of the fabric of reality itself, a low, rumbling sound that shook the very air around them. Thor raised Mjölnir, the hammer glowing with divine power. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. "This ends today, Serpent. You will not destroy Midgard, and you will not destroy the gods." The serpent's massive form twisted, and with a speed that belied its size, it lunged toward Thor. Its enormous mouth opened wide, revealing rows of sharp, venomous teeth. The thunder god swung Mjölnir with all his might, striking the serpent's head with a force that could split mountains. The impact sent a shockwave through the earth, and the serpent recoiled, hissing in pain. But Jörmungandr was not defeated. With a tremendous roar, it lashed out, its tail smashing into the ground with a force that sent Thor tumbling backward. The ground cracked and split beneath the impact, sending rocks flying into the air. Thor gritted his teeth, pushing himself back onto his feet. The serpent's poison had already begun to seep into the air, its venomous presence tainting the very land around them. Thor could feel it in his veins, a creeping numbness that threatened to overwhelm him. Despite the serpent's venom, Thor pressed on, his determination burning brighter than the storm above. With a mighty roar, he raised Mjölnir again, calling upon the power of thunder. The sky responded in kind, the heavens lighting up with a blinding flash of lightning. Thor's hammer crackled with energy as he swung it once more, landing a blow against the serpent's massive coils. The serpent howled in pain, but it was far from finished. It coiled tighter, wrapping its massive body around Thor, its immense weight threatening to crush him. The venom in the air grew stronger, and Thor felt his strength begin to wane. His vision blurred as the serpent's poison took hold, but he refused to give in. He fought with all the strength he had left, striking at the serpent with Mjölnir, each blow carrying the weight of 1,000 storms. The battle raged on, the clash between god and serpent shaking the very foundations of the world. The earth trembled beneath their feet, and the sky itself seemed to tear open with each strike. Thunder roared, lightning flashed, and the sea churned violently around them. Thor's heart pounded in his chest as he fought, his body growing weaker with each passing moment. The poison from the serpent's bite had spread through his veins, his strength fading. But he knew this was his fate. This was the battle that would determine the course of Ragnarok. With a final, desperate surge of power, Thor called upon the full might of Mjölnir. The hammer crackled with divine energy as he swung it toward the serpent's head. Time seemed to slow as the hammer collided with Jörmungandr's skull, the force of the impact sending a shockwave that reverberated across the realm. The serpent let out one final, deafening roar, its body convulsing violently as it fell back into the depths of the ocean. Thor stood, breathing heavily, his body battered and bruised. The serpent's form vanished beneath the waves, its massive coils sinking back into the depths from which it had emerged. But Thor knew that the battle had not been won in the way he had hoped. The world around him was beginning to unravel, the signs of Ragnarok growing more apparent with every passing moment. The skies above were now black with the fury of the coming storm, and the ground beneath Thor's feet shook with the tremors of a world that was slowly coming to an end. His strength had faltered in the battle, but his resolve remained unbroken. He had done what he could, even if the consequences were far greater than he had anticipated. Thor collapsed to his knees, the poison from the serpent's venom taking its toll. His vision blurred as the storm continued to rage, the heavens above reflecting the chaos below. As he lay there, breathing heavily. He knew that this was not just the end of his battle. It was the beginning of the end for the gods themselves.